The Diplomat, 26th of March 2024, How does China study the warfare in Central Asia? China perceives Central Asia as the forthcoming arena for hegemony and expansion, as a deteriorating Russia cannot safeguard its interests. A subject of considerable interest among Western policymakers and scholars alike in Central Asia is the involvement of China in the area, particularly in light of the Belt and Road Initiative's inception in 2013. Frank Maracchione and Bradley Jardine, in a recent quantitative analysis of Chinese scholarship on Central Asia, challenged two prevalent assumptions in Western literature concerning the Chinese perspective on the region. These assumptions were that China's research institutes are primarily concerned with economics and that Chinese thinking in Central Asia generally lacks local context. More than 10,000 publications were consulted to compile the data, which provides a more nuanced account of Central Asia studies in China. Catherine Putz of The Diplomat interviewed Maracchione, a non-resident fellow at the Oxus Society for Central Asian Affairs and a PhD candidate in the Department of Politics and International Relations at the University of Sheffield, regarding these prevalent Western assumptions regarding how China studies and perceives Central Asia, what the vast body of scholarship reveals, and much more. What are some widely held assumptions regarding China's involvement in Central Asia, specifically in the Western world? In the West, China's emergence is frequently characterized as an economic phenomenon with political ramifications. Cultural and ideational influence, in addition to China's political and security ideologies, are presumed to be insignificant factors in the progression propelling the People's Republic of China to international renown. This viewpoint permeates analyses about China's involvement in Central Asia. The majority of discourse surrounding significant political events, such as the formation of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization (SCO), and its regional anti-terrorist structure (RATS), focuses on their inconsequential diplomatic symbolism. Concurrently, Western specialists in Central Asia have conducted extensive analyses of China's Belt and Road Initiative (BRI) and associated investments, frequently identifying it as the most significant development in China-Central Asia relations. While the notion that Russia has traditionally been the security provider in Central Asia and China is merely an economic provider has been extensively refuted in academic and policy literature, this perception is frequently characterized as a recent development that deviates from Russia's conventional security dominance in the area. Another related notion is that China, compared to the Russian Federation, is a more significant foreign actor in Central Asia. The linguistic and cultural influences from Russian colonial and Soviet relations with Central Asia would have positioned it as a more regional foreign power. Concurrently, Turkey, Iran, India, and other Muslim-majority nations that have religious or cultural ties with Central Asia are promoted to the status of more legitimate regional partners. This perception of China's peculiar nature is reflected in local xenophobic narratives and may even have its origins there. The notion that Chinese political and economic actors are more self-interested than their foreign counterparts and are utterly ignorant of the region's languages, history, political climate, and social processes derives from the otherization of China. Do these hypotheses correspond with the results of your investigation into Chinese scholarship concerning Central Asia? The tenacity with which these assumptions persist in political analyses of China's relations with the region demonstrates that many are grounded in reality. Undoubtedly, the economic literature holds significant pertinence within the realm of Chinese language literature concerning Central Asia. The results of a joint Central Asian survey publication with Bradley Jardine, My Quantitative Analysis of Thematic Prevalence in Chinese Scholarship reveals that thematic clusters about macroeconomy, finance and investment, trade and transportation, and investment and financing comprise several of the most prevalent subjects in our corpus. It is also true that sinocentric and self-serving inquiries are the most prevalent in academic and policy-related research concerning the Chinese language. The two most pertinent subjects in our corpus are encompassed within our thematic cluster, which comprises prevalent narratives in Chinese governmental political discourse and foreign policy conceptions, about BRI and SCO. Chinese language instruction for Central Asians, historical research on the Great Silk Road, relations between Imperial China and Central Asia, the Mongol empires in Central Asia, and cultural exchanges between Chinese and Central Asian peoples are additional pertinent topics within our linguistic and cultural studies clusters. Nevertheless, upon closer inspection, Chinese scholarly work on the subject is considerably more diverse than is commonly believed. By employing a structural topic model, STM, and machine learning, we mitigated a portion of the bias that arose during the examination of a vast corpus of 10,563 publications. Our STM assisted us in investigating alternative facets of Chinese language Central Asia literature. As an illustration, security-related subjects comprise half of the top 15 topics in terms of prevalence, with 4 being internal politics in Central Asia and potential threats to stability. Although it is accurate to say that the surge in research concerning Central Asia studies that coincided with the announcement of the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, was primarily economic, security studies have constituted the predominant area of scholarly inquiry since the 2000s and, to a lesser extent, the 1990s. Moreover, Chinese scholars have devoted considerable effort to internal issues in Central Asia, indicating the possibility of developing a nuanced comprehension of regional dynamics. A significant subject matter extracted by our STM pertains to the political institutions of Central Asia. The subject matter encompasses research on regional elites, political parties, democratic institutions, security apparatus, and forms of governance and is ranked 9th in our corpus. Our quantitative analysis, however, cannot investigate the caliber of Chinese language literature. However, we emphasize that China's knowledge production in Central Asia has much more to offer in the way of exploration, and the database we provide could serve as a crucial instrument for future qualitative research. How has China's perspective on Central Asia evolved over the past decade, specifically among the community of regional experts? In the event of a transformation, what factors have propelled its development? Our research examined a corpus of Chinese language literature encompassing the chronological sequence of events that have transpired in Central Asia since independence. In contrast to the 1990s and 2000s, which were dominated by publications emphasizing politics and security, the 2010s witnessed a significant transition in the preponderance of economic-focused research. The substantial increase in Chinese investment resulting from the BRI is at the heart of this reorientation of research interests. The fourth most pertinent subject in the corpus is research on the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. At the same time, the third most prevalent is the renminbi's internationalization within the Central Asian region, which is an even more crucial topic of discussion. Nonetheless, the initial deficiencies of BRI initiatives may serve as impetuses for additional research into the regional attributes of Central Asian economies. By the end of the 2010s, there was a significant increase in the thematic prevalence of research pertaining to risk analyses for Chinese investors and investment and commercial standards in Central Asia. This trend validates the theory that Chinese companies in Central Asia are localizing their operations during the second phase of the Belt and Road Initiative by engaging with local actors. An additional noteworthy trend pertains to archaeological, historical, and cultural research. The expansion of Sinocentrism in cultural studies coincided with the People's Republic of China's economic and political influence in Central Asia. Once more, the BRI is at the forefront of this discussion, as the Great Silk Road is the most pertinent humanities research topic, which may be associated with bolstering governmental narratives regarding benign cooperation between China and Central Asia along the ancient Silk Road. The subject has maintained its prominence since its zenith in the early 2010s. Archaeological research has recently emerged as a significant thematic component within our corpus. We observed an increase in this form of research after 2017-18, which corresponds well with the focus that Chinese media has placed on Chinese archaeological cooperation abroad in Africa, South Asia, and Central Asia. Such collaborative endeavors as the Mingtep Archaeological Mission in Uzbekistan investigate the locations of ancient Central Asian cities mentioned in ancient Chinese texts. To what degree are Central Asia and Russia grouped in terms of scholarly discourse and policy formulation? The organizational structure of scholarship on Central Asia and the People's Republic of China resembles that of the West in terms of the prominence of Russia. Journals, research centers, and departments specializing in Eurasian and Russian studies frequently include articles on Central Asia. An instance of a renowned journal that disseminates research on Central Asia is Russia, Eastern European, and Central Asian Studies, which is housed within the homonymous institute. Nevertheless, Xinjiang's geographical positioning of numerous institutions and publications specializing in traditional Central Asia studies creates environments where the region becomes the focal point of scholarly investigation. The publication Central Asia Info, which is administered by the Science and Technology Department of the Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, serves as an example. Conversing with academics based in China, I discovered that researchers are frequently educated in Eurasian studies focusing on Russia and interact with Central Asia primarily through the Russian language. An intriguing feature is that they rarely read or speak English and prefer to read literature in Russian or Mandarin. Referring back to our thematic analysis, we decided not to discuss Russia in our study due to the unsupervised nature of our research and the lack of relevance of Russia-related topics in our corpus. 2 of the 60 topics discussed Russia indirectly in the context of research on the Commonwealth of Independent States and the disintegration of the Soviet Union. Only 1 of the 60 topics was explicitly concerned with Russia. Additionally, Russia is frequently the subject of scholarly discourse within the framework of historical or modern notions of the Great Game, emphasizing the geographical implications of power imbalances. It is noteworthy that Russia's significance in Chinese language research on Central Asia has decreased over time, a trend that is inversely proportional to China's prominence in the region. This could potentially suggest a transformative shift in China's perspective regarding its involvement in Central Asia. How prominent are state narratives, such as the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, in the minds of Chinese research communities? It is impossible to exaggerate the significance of BRI research topics to China's knowledge production regarding Central Asia. To elucidate this prominence, we focused on the research funding provided by the government in support of the Belt and Road Initiative, BRI. The Central Asian Research Center, the Central Asian Center for Agriculture, the Central Asian Biological Center, the Central Asian Industrial Incubator Center, and the Central Asian Information Technology Center were established in Xinjiang in 2013. The Central Asia Institute, the Institute for the Study of the Silk Road at Northwestern University, and the Central Asia Institute at Shen University of Foreign Languages were the 3 additional centers established in 2014 in other regions. The research conducted at these centers has undeniably distorted the topic's thematic relevance. Nevertheless, the BRI does not dominate government discourse as a whole. The notion of good neighborliness, which Chinese state actors have employed for decades to discuss China's relations with the neighboring region, is associated with a conceptual discussion in Chinese language research on Central Asia mainly influenced by the central state. In general, the notion is pervasive within our corpus. By emphasizing the significance of state narratives in the study of Central Asia and China, we can also highlight the importance of state funding and influencing research in the field. Priorities related to particular political and economic developments, such as the so-called color revolutions or the development of the Xinjiang region to foster connections with Central Asia, are addressed in 2 additional themes. Lastly, research on the SCO, the first multilateral organization in the area to include China, applies to every aspect. Similar to the BRI, the formation and expansion of the SCO encouraged the establishment of specialized research institutions to further its objectives. The establishment of the China National Institute for SCO International Exchange and Judicial Cooperation in Shanghai is a recent instance. Do you believe the policymaking community in the West overlooks or misunderstands anything in particular regarding commentary and analysis of China's engagements in Central Asia? I believe the West attempts to construct a coherent political direction or objective for Chinese initiatives in the region through theoretical analysis of China's economic role in Central Asia. While these imagined objectives may differ in nature depending on whether they pertain to domestic or international political endeavors, they all share a common thread in the behavior of Chinese state entities, including the government, financial institutions, and state-owned enterprises, SOEs. Nonetheless, the investigation into Chinese state-sponsored foreign investment and aid assists us in debating this coherence. The findings of the majority of empirical studies and data-driven analyses indicate that Chinese aid and investment do not serve a singular primary objective. While a foreign policy influences assistance in the form of ODA-like financial instruments, other investments are motivated by commercial or economic concerns, even though the majority of endeavors serve multiple purposes. Economic analyses become even more intricate when the Chinese private sector is considered. Scholars have debated and cast doubt on whether a Chinese firm could be completely private. As stated previously, empirical research indicates that this varies from case to case. The government's oversight of state-owned enterprises is more conspicuous due to the involvement of organizations affiliated with the Chinese Communist Party, CCP. As affirmed by my Chinese contacts in Central Asia, this also applies to regional branches, as evidenced by managers' and employees' regular party training and adherence to the CCP. Even though comparable organizations are frequently formed within private enterprises, recent research has failed to produce conclusive results regarding the effectiveness of these initiatives in guiding party members' actions toward their objectives. I believe that the characterization of Chinese economic actors as mere participants in a party-state-led game is detrimental to the caliber of research concerning China's engagement in the economies of Central Asia. Therefore, I support a methodology that examines Chinese economic actors and recipient societies by analyzing their behaviors and responses to indigenous narratives and priorities.